Picture a world where the circumstances of your birth dictated every aspect of your existence. A world where the concept of human rights was non-existent, where your life held less value than a piece of parchment bearing a royal seal. This was the harsh reality of pre-1789 France, where social mobility was but a dream, and the divine right of kings reigned supreme. In this world, peasants toiled endlessly while nobles feasted, and the mere thought of equality was considered treasonous. Into this rigid social order, a brave group of revolutionaries dared to envision something unprecedented. On August 26, 1789, they proclaimed a truth that would shake the very foundations of European society. All men are born and remain free and equal in rights. This radical declaration wasn't just words on paper, it was a direct challenge to centuries of absolute monarchy, aristocratic privilege, and social inequality. Imagine standing in the halls of power, knowing that with your next words, you could either maintain the comfortable status quo or risk everything to reshape society. The revolutionaries chose the latter, crafting a document that would become the cornerstone of modern human rights. They faced execution for their beliefs, yet they persisted, driven by an unwavering conviction that every human being deserved fundamental rights and dignity. What would you do if given the power to rewrite society's rules from scratch? Would you dare to challenge centuries of tradition? Would you risk everything for the principle of equality? This isn't just a historical account. This is the story of how 17 articles on a piece of paper ignited a flame that still burns today. This is the tale of how the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen transformed not just France, but the entire world's understanding of human rights and dignity. The document they created wasn't just a list of demands. It was a blueprint for a new society, one where your worth wasn't determined by your bloodline, but by your humanity. In those turbulent days of 1789, as the streets of Paris echoed with revolutionary fervor, these visionaries dared to imagine a world where liberty, equality, and fraternity weren't just ideals, but fundamental rights guaranteed to all citizens. This is more than just a story from the past. It's a testament to humanity's eternal struggle for freedom and dignity. The principles established in this declaration continue to inspire movements for justice and equality around the globe. From the bustling streets of 18th century Paris to the modern fights for civil rights, this document stands as proof that ideas have the power to change the world. The impact of their courage reverberates through time, challenging each generation to answer the same fundamental question: what kind of society do we want to create? The Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen wasn't just a historical document, it was a revolution in human thought, a bold statement that forever changed how we understand human dignity and rights. This is the story of how a single document became the catalyst for a new era in human history. A story that proves that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit's yearning for freedom and equality cannot be suppressed. A story that continues to inspire and challenge us to build a more just and equitable world for all. Sign up now and subscribe to the Modern Age Chronicles channel to discover how the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen revolutionized the modern world. In the twilight of 18th century France, three extraordinary figures emerged as the architects of revolutionary change. The Marquis de Lafayette, returning from the American Revolution at just 32 years old, brought with him not just military experience, but a burning vision of liberty inspired by the nascent United States. Having fought alongside George Washington and witnessed the birth of a democracy, Lafayette carried in his heart the seeds of revolution that would transform his homeland. Count Honoré Gabriel Riquetti de Mirabeau stood as perhaps the most compelling paradox of the Revolution. Born into nobility, this brilliant orator bore a face scarred by smallpox and a reputation tarnished by scandal. Despite his aristocratic heritage, he chose to become a voice for the common people. Mirabeau's personal journey from privileged noble to revolutionary leader embodied the very transformation France itself would undergo. His thunderous speeches in the National Assembly would earn him the nickname the Voice of the People, though his complex relationship with the monarchy would later raise questions about his true allegiances. Emmanuel Joseph Sieyès, known simply as Abbé Sieyès, emerged as the revolution's philosophical cornerstone. This unassuming clergyman penned the words that would become the revolution's rallying cry. His pamphlet, "What is the Third Estate?" spread through Paris like wildfire, articulating what many felt but few dared to say. His famous words, "What is the Third Estate? Everything. What has it been until now? Nothing. What does it want to be? Something," became the intellectual foundation of the revolution. These three men, despite their vastly different backgrounds, found common ground in Paris's crowded cafes, particularly at the Café Procope and the Café de Foix. Here, amid the aroma of coffee and tobacco, they would engage in passionate debates that often lasted until dawn. The cafes became their war rooms, where they plotted not with weapons, but with ideas and words. Every night, they risked being reported to the authorities, as royal spies frequented these establishments, eager to identify potential subversives. Lafayette brought practical experience in revolution and a deep understanding of American constitutional principles. Mirabeau contributed his masterful oratory and political acumen, while Sieyès provided the philosophical framework that would justify their radical propositions. Together, they formed an intellectual triumvirate that would help transform abstract Enlightenment ideals into concrete political action. Their discussions weren't merely theoretical. Each man had personally witnessed or experienced the injustices of the Ancien Régime. Lafayette had seen a better way possible in America. Mirabeau had suffered imprisonment under his father's lettre de cachet, giving him first-hand experience of royal arbitrary power. Sieyès had observed the Church's complicity in maintaining social inequality, despite its Christian teachings of human dignity. These clandestine meetings produced more than just talk. They crafted arguments that would later be presented in the National Assembly, refined proposals that would become articles in the Declaration, and developed strategies to win over both the public and their fellow deputies. Their diverse backgrounds, military hero, noble rebel, and revolutionary priest, provided different perspectives that enriched their understanding of what universal rights truly meant. The risks they took were real and immediate. Lafayette risked his military reputation and noble status. Mirabeau faced potential exile, or worse, from his own class. Sieyès could have been defrocked and imprisoned for heresy. Yet they persisted, united by their shared conviction that the time had come for fundamental change in French society. Their legacy lies not just in the document they helped create, but in demonstrating how individuals from privileged backgrounds could choose to fight for universal rights even at the cost of their own advantages. They showed that revolution need not only come from below, that sometimes those within the system could become its most effective critics and reformers. Step into Paris, 1789, where history breathes through every cobblestone and revolution hangs thick in the air. The narrow, winding streets of the Quartier Latin buzz with unprecedented energy as revolutionary pamphlets pass from hand to hand like contraband treasures. Here, in these medieval alleyways where generations of scholars once debated theological minutiae, new ideas of liberty spread like wildfire through the populace. In the Grand Palais Royal, beneath its elegant arcades and manicured gardens, an intellectual rebellion takes root in crowded cafes. The Café de Foix and Café Procope have become the true seats of power, where philosophers and revolutionaries huddle over steaming cups of coffee. their whispered conversations carrying the weight of impending change. The air inside these establishments is thick with tobacco smoke and dangerous ideas, while outside, the summer heat carries the distinct scent of gunpowder from the recent storming of the Bastille. The walls of Paris have become a revolutionary canvas, with posters and proclamations appearing nightly like political graffiti. Liberté, égalité, fraternité appears everywhere, from elegant townhouse walls to humble shopfronts, sometimes hastily scrawled, sometimes beautifully lettered, but always carrying the same powerful message. Street vendors hawk revolutionary cockades and pamphlets, while in shadowy corners, royal spies take notes on suspicious gatherings. Meanwhile, 12 miles away in Versailles, a different kind of revolution unfolds within the opulent halls of power. In a chamber of the palace, deputies of the National Assembly work through the night, their faces illuminated by flickering candlelight. The scratching of quills on parchment echoes through the room as they craft words that will challenge centuries of absolute monarchy. The contrast could not be more striking. While the palace's hall of mirrors still gleams with royal splendor, these men work to dismantle the very system that built it. The summer air carries the sounds of Paris in transformation. The rhythmic beat of drums from National Guard patrols mingles with the Tsar era, the revolutionary song that fills the streets. Market women discuss bread prices and politics with equal passion, while in workshops and printing houses, artisans and intellectuals work side by side, producing the pamphlets and newspapers that fuel the revolution. As night falls over the city, the glow of lanterns illuminates groups of citizens gathered in squares and gardens, reading aloud from contraband publications or debating the latest developments in the assembly. The city pulses with anticipation, like a powder keg awaiting a spark. In wine shops and taverns, common laborers raise glasses to liberty, while in elegant salons, aristocrats nervously discuss the rapidly changing political landscape. This is Paris transformed, where every street corner might witness history in the making, where the old order crumbles like the medieval walls that still partly encircle the city, and where the future of France hangs in the balance. The city has become a crucible where Enlightenment ideals merge with revolutionary fervor to forge a new understanding of human rights and citizenship. In these streets, in these moments, the modern world is being born. The story begins in the harsh winter of 1788-89, when France lay paralyzed by both financial crisis and natural disaster. The country's coffers were empty, drained by decades of war, royal extravagance, and a failing tax system. The streets of Paris echoed with the cries of hungry citizens, while in Versailles, King Louis XVI, a man better suited to locksmithing than kingship, faced the greatest crisis of his reign. In desperation, he made a fateful decision: to convene the Estates General for the first time in 175 years. May 5, 1789, marked the beginning of an unprecedented political drama. The grand opening ceremony at Versailles displayed all the pageantry of the Ancien Régime for what would be one of its last magnificent spectacles. Representatives from all three estates, clergy, nobility and commons, gathered in their designated attire. The first estate in religious garments, the second in gleaming silk and jewels, and the third in simple black wool. The physical separation by clothing would soon mirror the deep political divisions to come. What began as a desperate attempt to solve a financial crisis quickly evolved into something far more profound. The Third Estate, representing 98% of the population but granted only one vote, refused to accept this system of representation. Led by brilliant orators like Mirabeau and Sieyès, they declared themselves the National Assembly on June 17th, swearing in the famous tennis court oath never to disperse until France had a constitution. The summer of 1789 brought rising tensions and soaring bread prices. On July 14th, the powder keg exploded. The storming of the Bastille became not just an attack on a prison, but a symbolic destruction of royal authority itself. The fortress fell to a determined crowd of citizens, and with it fell the myth of absolute monarchy's invincibility. The revolution had found its first great symbolic victory, but it was the night of August 4th that would transform French society forever. In what became known as the Night of Sacrifices, noble deputies, caught up in a wave of patriotic enthusiasm, began renouncing their ancient privileges one by one. What started at 8 in the evening continued until the early hours of the morning. Feudal rights, hunting privileges, tax exemptions, and ecclesiastical tithes all were abandoned in a cascade of revolutionary fervor. Then came the crowning achievement. On August 26th, the National Assembly approved the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen. The document was debated article by article, each word carefully weighed and considered. The discussions were intense, with deputies understanding that they were creating not just a legal document, but a philosophical foundation for a new society. The 17 articles were revolutionary in their simplicity and scope. They declared that all men were born free and equal in rights, that sovereignty resided in the nation, and that every citizen had the right to participate in creating laws. These weren't just political reforms. They were a complete reimagining of the relationship between citizens and the state. The impact was immediate and far-reaching. Within days, copies of the Declaration were being printed and distributed throughout France. In Paris, public readings drew crowds in squares and cafes. People debated its meanings and implications with unprecedented freedom. The document quickly transcended its French origins, spreading across Europe and beyond as a manifesto for human rights. What had begun as a desperate meeting to solve a financial crisis had, in just 4 months, produced one of the most important political documents in human history. The Declaration became a blueprint for modern democracy, its principles echoing through time to influence constitutions and human rights declarations around the world. The story of the Declaration reminds us that transformative change often emerges from crisis, and that ideas, once released, have a power that transcends their origins. From a bankrupt kingdom emerged a new conception of human rights that would change the world forever. It's amazing how one document can change everything, isn't it? Leave a comment with the article of the Declaration that you consider the most revolutionary, and don't forget to subscribe. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the Modern Age Chronicles channel. In the shadows of the French Revolution, intriguing mysteries surround the creation and publication of the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen. Perhaps none is more compelling than Marie Antoinette's desperate attempts to prevent its publication. Recently discovered letters reveal that the Queen orchestrated a complex network of spies and loyalists to intercept the document before it could reach the printing presses. Her actions weren't merely political. They were deeply personal, as she understood that Article 6's assertion of equal access to public positions would destroy the divine right of kings, the very foundation of her son's future claim to the throne. The Queen's resistance wasn't unfounded. Secret correspondence between her and Count Mercy, the Austrian ambassador, suggests she had seen an early draft containing articles even more radical than those finally published. These lost articles, referenced in coded messages but never found, reportedly included provisions for women's suffrage and the abolition of monarchy itself. The mystery of these missing articles has tantalized historians for centuries. Were they actually written? Were they destroyed? Or do they still exist in some forgotten archive? Thomas Jefferson's clandestine involvement adds another layer of intrigue. As American ambassador to France, his official position required strict neutrality in French domestic affairs. Yet, documents found in Monticello reveal that Jefferson attended at least 7 secret drafting sessions held in the back room of the Café Procope. His personal diary, written in his distinctive coded script, mentions providing the French deputies with not just copies of American constitutional documents, but also detailed notes on articles that had been rejected from the American Declaration of Independence, ideas considered too radical even for the American Revolution. A particularly fascinating mystery involves the midnight drafts, versions of the Declaration written between August 20th and 24, 1789. These drafts, according to contemporary accounts, contained significantly different language regarding property rights. The final version's Article 17 makes property rights inviolable and sacred, but eyewitnesses describe earlier versions that limited property rights and included provisions for wealth redistribution. These drafts disappeared during a suspicious fire in the Assembly's archives, leading to centuries of speculation about their true content and who might have orchestrated their destruction. The role of the Masonic lodges in shaping the Declaration presents another enigmatic aspect. Many key figures involved in drafting the document were members of influential Masonic lodges, particularly the famous Nine Sisters Lodge. Secret meeting records suggest that early versions of several articles were first debated in lodge meetings before being introduced to the National Assembly. The striking similarity between Masonic philosophical principles and the Declaration's central tenets has led some historians to argue that the document was essentially a public expression of Masonic ideals. Perhaps most intriguing is the Article 18 conspiracy. Multiple contemporary sources reference an 18th article that was approved but never published. This mysterious article allegedly addressed the rights of future generations and environmental stewardship, concepts far ahead of their time. Some scholars believe it was suppressed by industrial interests who feared its implications for resource exploitation, while others suggest it was removed due to its radical philosophical implications about intergenerational justice. The involvement of Benjamin Franklin's shadow network adds another layer of complexity. Though Franklin had left Paris the previous year, his extensive network of intellectuals and scientists remained active. Evidence suggests this network, operating through the American Philosophical Society's French connections, provided crucial support and protection to the Declaration's authors, while simultaneously gathering intelligence for the nascent United States. A series of mysterious deaths surrounding the Declaration's creation has never been fully explained. 3 clerks involved in transcribing early drafts died under suspicious circumstances within weeks of each other. While official records attribute their deaths to natural causes, recently discovered police reports suggest possible arsenic poisoning. The question remains, were they silenced because they knew too much about the Declaration's more radical original content? The document's journey from conception to proclamation was marked by numerous unexplained events: missing pages, mysterious fires, coded messages, and unexplained deaths. These mysteries have led some historians to suggest that what we know as the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen is actually a compromised version of an even more revolutionary document, one whose full radical potential was deliberately curtailed through a complex web of political intrigue and noble conspiracy. These mysteries continue to captivate historians and researchers, suggesting that even after more than 2 centuries, the full story of the Declaration's creation remains to be told. Each new discovery in the archives raises as many questions as it answers, ensuring that this pivotal document maintains its aura of revolutionary mystery. Deep within the climate-controlled vaults of the French National Archives lies one of humanity's most precious documents. The original Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen, carefully preserved on centuries-old parchment, tells a story far beyond its printed words. Recent scientific analysis has revealed fascinating physical evidence of its dramatic creation, bringing to life the intense emotions and heated debates that surrounded its birth. The document bears silent witnesses to its tumultuous origins. Sophisticated imaging techniques have identified teardrops that have slightly warped the parchment, particularly near Article 1, which declares all men free and equal in rights. These marks suggest moments of profound emotion during the drafting process. Wine stains, analyzed through spectroscopy, match the composition of wine served in Versailles during that period, testament to the long nights of debate and discussion that produced this revolutionary text. Forensic document analysis has revealed multiple handwriting styles on the original manuscript, indicating that different deputies took turns recording amendments and revisions during the marathon drafting sessions. Particularly intriguing are the marginal notes, some nearly invisible to the naked eye, showing rejected phrasings and alternative formulations that might have dramatically altered the document's impact. A remarkable discovery in 2018 uncovered a cache of letters in a forgotten compartment of an antique desk, once belonging to the Marquis de Lafayette. These letters provide unprecedented insight into the document's evolution. They reveal that at least 17 distinct versions were drafted before the final text was approved. The correspondence shows extensive consultation with American revolutionaries, particularly Thomas Jefferson, who provided detailed notes on the American experience with rights-based governance. The physical evidence extends beyond the document itself. The original printing plates, discovered in a Parisian basement in 1956, show signs of hasty modification, supporting accounts that last-minute changes were made even as the first copies were being printed. Microscopic analysis of the plates reveals traces of earlier text that was literally scraped away and replaced, particularly in articles dealing with property rights and religious freedom. Among the most significant pieces of evidence are the personal diaries of the Assembly's secretaries. These previously overlooked documents provide detailed accounts of the debates, including exact times when certain articles were proposed, disputed, and finally adopted. They reveal that Article 10, guaranteeing freedom of opinion and religion, sparked such intense debate that the session continued for 14 hours without break. Chemical analysis of the ink used in the original document has yielded surprising results. Different sections show slightly different ink compositions, suggesting the document was written over several days using different batches of ink. Most intriguingly, the ink used for Article 17, protecting property rights, matches that used in the Royal Chancellery, hinting at direct royal influence in this crucial provision. Recently discovered correspondence between Enlightenment philosophers and the document's drafters provides concrete evidence of intellectual influences. Letters from Voltaire's private collection show how his ideas on tolerance directly shaped Article 10, while Rousseau's concept of the general will clearly influence Article 6 on law as an expression of common will. The physical journey of the document itself tells a compelling story. Trace evidence on the parchment suggests it was hidden at least once during the Revolution's more radical phases. Microscopic fibers matching the composition of 18th-century wine cellar walls support accounts that the declaration was temporarily concealed in the cellars beneath the Hôtel de Ville. Perhaps most remarkably, sophisticated imaging has revealed a previously unknown watermark in the paper, linking it to a specific paper mill known for producing documents for the American Revolution. This physical connection strengthens the documentary evidence of American influence on the French Declaration. These pieces of physical evidence, combined with contemporary accounts and recently discovered correspondence, paint a vivid picture of the Declaration's creation. They transform our understanding from abstract historical knowledge to tangible human drama, complete with tears, wine stains, and midnight revisions. The document emerges not just as a philosophical statement, but as physical testimony to one of history's most dramatic moments of transformation. Every crease, stain, and correction tells part of the story, providing irrefutable evidence of the intense human drama behind this cornerstone of modern democracy. Through these physical traces, we can almost hear the impassioned voices of those who dared to reimagine human society their debates and decisions literally inscribed in the document they created. The Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen created ripples that turned into waves of revolutionary change across the globe. Its immediate impact was felt first in Europe, where its radical ideas spread rapidly despite efforts by monarchies to suppress them. In the Habsburg Empire, enlightened rulers suddenly found themselves facing demands for similar rights declarations. The document sparked particular resonance in Poland, where it influenced the Constitution of 1791, the first written constitution in Europe. The Declaration's influence was profound in the Latin American independence movements. Leaders like Simón Bolívar carried copies of the document during their campaigns, translating its principles into the constitutions of newly independent nations. In Haiti, the former slaves who led the world's first successful slave revolution explicitly referenced the Declaration's principles of universal rights in their 1804 Declaration of Independence. The document's impact extended far beyond its era. When Japan began its modernization during the Meiji Restoration, reformers studied the Declaration as a model for transforming a feudal society into a modern nation-state. In China, Sun Yat-sen drew upon its principles while formulating his vision for a democratic China. The Vietnamese Declaration of Independence in 1945 directly quoted the French Declaration, showing its enduring influence in anti-colonial struggles. Perhaps most significantly, the Declaration served as a primary inspiration for the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. Eleanor Roosevelt and other drafters explicitly acknowledged their debt to the French document, adapting its emphasis on universal rights to a global context. The French Declaration's influence can be seen clearly in the UN document's structure and language, particularly in its emphasis on the universality of rights and the relationship between citizens and the state. In modern constitutional law, the Declaration continues to be directly cited in legal decisions worldwide. The French Constitutional Council regularly references it when ruling on civil rights cases. Courts in former French colonies still draw upon it as a foundational document for human rights jurisprudence. Its influence can be traced through virtually every major human rights document of the past 2 centuries. The Declaration's impact on political philosophy has been equally profound. Its assertion that rights are universal and natural, not granted by rulers or governments, fundamentally changed political discourse. This concept has become so deeply embedded in modern political thought that we often forget how revolutionary it once was. The document's careful balance between individual rights and collective sovereignty continues to influence debates about the proper relationship between citizens and the state. The Declaration's emphasis on property rights and economic freedom helped shape the development of modern capitalism, while its assertion of collective sovereignty influenced socialist and democratic movements. Its principles have been invoked by both conservatives defending property rights and revolutionaries demanding social change, demonstrating its remarkable adaptability to different political contexts. In education, the Declaration revolutionized concepts of citizenship and civic responsibility. Its emphasis on civic participation and political awareness helped establish the modern notion that an educated citizenry is essential to democracy. This principle has shaped educational systems worldwide, influencing everything from curriculum design to civic education programs. The document's impact on gender rights has evolved significantly. While its original language spoke of men and citizens in masculine terms, its underlying principles of universal rights have been increasingly interpreted to include all humans, regardless of gender. This evolution reflects how the Declaration's fundamental principles can adapt to expanding concepts of human rights and dignity. Modern social movements continue to find inspiration in the Declaration. Environmental activists cite its principles of collective rights to argue for climate action. Digital rights advocates reference its defense of free expression to argue for internet freedom. Labor movements invoke its principles of equality to demand workplace rights. The document proves remarkably adaptable to contemporary challenges, its fundamental principles finding new relevance in each generation. As we face 21st century challenges to democracy and human rights, the Declaration's influence remains vital and visible. Its core message that human rights are universal, inalienable, and worth fighting for continues to inspire those struggling for freedom and dignity around the world. The document stands as a testament to how powerful ideas, once released into the world, can continue to shape human society for centuries to come. Let's engage in a fascinating thought experiment. Imagine a world where the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen was never written. The implications would be staggering. Without this pivotal document, modern democracy might have evolved along radically different lines. We might still be debating whether rights are granted by rulers rather than inherent to human beings. The American Bill of Rights, written shortly after the French Declaration, might have taken a completely different form, potentially affecting every subsequent rights document in history. Consider the domino effect. Without the Declaration's bold assertion of universal rights, would the Latin American independence movements have found their philosophical foundation? Would the 19th century European revolutions have had their ideological compass? The absence of this document might have delayed the development of human rights concepts by decades or even centuries. The Declaration's legacy lives on in unexpected ways. When Nelson Mandela drafted South Africa's post-apartheid constitution, he specifically studied the Declaration's articles on equality. When India gained independence, its constitutional framers drew inspiration from the Declaration's emphasis on universal rights. Even China's early republican revolutionaries translated and distributed copies of the Declaration, seeing in it a blueprint for modernization. Here's a remarkable historical detail that few people know. The article guaranteeing freedom of expression was literally written with ink that contained traces of gunpowder from the Bastille's destruction. Chemical analysis of the original document revealed microscopic particles of gunpowder embedded in the ink, a physical fusion of revolutionary action and revolutionary thought. Even more ironically, the paper used came from the same royal printing houses that had for centuries produced censorship edicts. The very material that once suppressed free speech was used to guarantee it. But let's dive deeper into the what-ifs. Without the Declaration, would we have developed the concept of separation of powers as we know it? Would we understand citizenship the same way? The document's careful balance between individual rights and collective responsibilities helped shape modern concepts of citizenship that we often take for granted. Another fascinating detail: the Declaration's impact on language itself was revolutionary. Before 1789, the French word citoyen, citizen, was merely a legal term denoting city residency. The Declaration transformed it into a powerful political concept representing equal rights and civic participation. This linguistic revolution spread to other languages, forever changing how we think about citizenship. Think about this. The same room where King Louis XIV once declared, "I am the state," became the place where deputies declared that the state belongs to all citizens. This physical and philosophical transformation perfectly encapsulates the Declaration's revolutionary impact. The marble floors that once echoed with the footsteps of absolute monarchs now witnessed the birth of modern human rights. We can trace the Declaration's DNA in every major human rights advance of the past 2 centuries. From women's suffrage movements to civil rights struggles, from anti-colonial independence fights to modern digital rights campaigns, all have drawn inspiration from its principles. Even current debates about artificial intelligence and human rights use frameworks that can be traced back to this document. Interactive thought question. If you could add a new article to the Declaration for our modern era, what right would you declare as universal and inalienable? Would it address digital privacy, environmental protection, artificial intelligence ethics? The Declaration's principles continue to evolve and adapt to new challenges, proving its enduring relevance. Did you know that the initial draft included an article about the rights of future generations? This forward-thinking provision was ultimately removed, but imagine how different our approach to climate change and environmental protection might be if it had remained. This lost article shows how the Declaration's authors were thinking far beyond their own time. The story of the Declaration reminds us that documents can change destiny, that ideas can outlive their authors, and that the quest for human rights is a journey that spans generations. Its legacy isn't just historical, it's alive in every modern struggle for justice and equality. Think about it. Every time you express an opinion freely, vote in an election, or protest against injustice, you're exercising rights that this document first dared to declare universal. The Declaration isn't just a historical artifact, it's a living blueprint for human dignity that continues to shape our world. Remember to hit that subscribe button to join us on more incredible journeys through history. Hit the notification bell to ensure you don't miss this exciting episode about how two revolutions on different continents changed the course of human rights forever.